Beyond words, our souls collide in the rhythm where dreams reside. Beyond words, we touch the sky.
Welcome to the Beyond Words Deep Dive Sessions, an inspiring exploration of the book Beyond Words by Marcia and John.
Ever get the feeling like you're just skimming the surface in conversations? You know, like there's got to be more to uncover.
Yeah, definitely. Happens all the time. We stick to these surface level exchanges and totally miss out on the power of really intentional questions.
And that's what I'm pumped about for this deep dive. We're going to be exploring Beyond Words, this book that dives into how to use powerful questioning techniques and completely transform how we communicate.
Super fascinating stuff, actually. They use neuroscience and this thing called neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, to explain how our brains are hardwired for connection and making sense of things.
And at the heart of this approach is the PORI model, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can think of Poraki as a framework for asking questions that, well, they don't just get information, they actually can shape the whole conversation.
Okay, that's interesting. I got to say, though, PORAC sounds a little technical at first. Can you break it down?
For sure. It might seem a bit intimidating, but it's actually pretty intuitive. Each P and then the RAC, they each stand for a different zone of questioning, like coordinates on a map.
Ooh, okay, I like that. So instead of wandering around a conversation lost, we use these zones to navigate.
Precisely. And the cool thing is that this model, it helps you get the outcomes you want.
All right, so let's start with the first P. What about the purpose zone? How's that important in the PORAC model?
Well, that's where it all starts. Before you even come up with a question, you got to ask yourself, what's the point? What's the outcome I want here?
So it's like setting an intention gives your questions like a direction.
Yes. But there's more to it. Beyond Words talks about how these purpose-driven questions actually resonate in our brains, like on a neurological level.
Okay, now you've got me really interested.
Yeah.
How do these questions actually work with our brain?
Well, our brains are wired to look for meaning. When you ask something that speaks to that, it triggers a whole other level of engagement.
It's like you're talking to the core of what makes us human.
Exactly. And the book has some really interesting examples of purpose questions in action. Instead of the typical, how was your day, which, let's be real, usually gets a surface level response, you could try asking, what was the highlight of your day?
Oh, it's so much better. That's still casual, but it makes you think more. I can see how a little shift like that could really change the whole tone.
It really can. That's the power of purpose-driven questions. They do more than just get information. They actually can shape the emotional landscape,
I'm realizing this is way beyond just asking better questions. It's like using them strategically to get specific outcomes.
Exactly. Let's say you're at work and you're trying to figure out your colleagues' long-term goals. Instead of the usual, what are your goals? Which is kind of, I don't know, you could ask them, if there was one thing you really wanted to achieve within a year, what would it be?
Wow. There's such a difference between those two. The first one just feels, I don't know, like a formality. But that second one, it's like you're really inviting them to picture their ideal future.
Exactly. And that's a key point from Beyond Words. When you frame questions in a way that makes people connect with what they want, you tap into a powerful motivator.
This reminds me of something I read about asking those future-oriented questions to combat procrastination. Instead of saying, are you working on that project? You ask, how will you feel when that project is done and it's a huge success?
Same principle. By switching the focus to a positive outcome, you're basically activating those reward centers in the brain, making them more likely to act.
Incredible. It's like you're subtly nudging their brain towards a more positive, action-oriented way of thinking.
There's actually a fantastic question from Beyond Words that sums this up. How will you know in 1 year that you have taken a series of excellent decisions?
Whoa. That is powerful. That really makes you think differently about your choices, not about past mistakes, but the decisions we make today to shape a better future.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can be so empowering. It helps to get past fear and doubt and step into a more confident version of yourself.
So by using questions that tap into this purpose zone, we're not just getting information, we're actually, in a way, influencing how people think, feel, even behave.
You got it. It's about understanding the power of our words.
Yeah.
And that brings us to the next part of the pirate model, people and roles.
Okay, I see how these zones connect now. So we've got the why, the purpose, and now we're moving into the who. What makes it so important to understand the people involved?
Because you can ask the right question, but if you're not mindful of who you're talking to, it can still fall flat.
It's like, it's not what you say, but how you say it. But now it's also about who you're saying it to, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Everyone's got their own perspective, their own experiences. This people and role zone is all about figuring those dynamics out.
So it's beyond just knowing who's there. It's about their roles, their influence, even their biases.
You got it. Beyond Words talks about asking stuff like, who are the key stakeholders here? Or even, who might have like insights or knowledge that could be really useful?
It's like building a team. You need the right people with the right skills to reach that goal. Only this time, it's a team for a conversation.
I like that. And just like with teams, you might have some people who aren't so keen on change or have different opinions. Beyond Words says we should address those potential roadblocks right away.
Instead of waiting for the conflict to erupt, we get ahead of it.
Yeah. Asking something like, who might push back on this idea and how can we deal with their concerns, can be super valuable. It shows you're not just trying to push your own thing. You actually value what everyone thinks.
It's about working together, understanding each other.
Yeah.
This reminds me of when I was trying to bring in a new system at work. I was so excited about it, but I totally forgot to think about how it would impact other departments.
What happened?
Oh, it was a mess. People felt left out, there was resistance, and we were so behind schedule. If I had just taken the time to ask, who's affected by this and how can we help, it would have gone so much smoother, you know?
Yeah, I think we've all been there. We get caught up in the what and forget about the who.
For sure. Okay, so we've got purpose, people, and roles.
Yeah.
What's the next zone in this PORIC thing?
R is for resources. This is about pinpointing the tools, the knowledge, all the support that can help us get where we want to go.
So it's getting practical, right?
Yeah.
We know our purpose, we've got the players, now we're figuring out what we need to make it happen.
Exactly. And Beyond Words stresses that resources, they aren't always physical things like money or equipment. They can be intangible too, like skills, knowledge, our networks, even just time and energy.
That's important. Sometimes those are the most valuable and we don't even realize we have them, or we don't use them well.
Totally. The book suggests asking, what methods or approaches are you thinking about? Or are there any resources that would, like, really make a difference here?
So we're taking stock, not just our physical resources, but also, like you said, our mental and emotional ones, even social resources.
Exactly. And just by asking these questions, sometimes we realize, hey, I've got more support than I thought. Maybe it's a coworker with expertise, a mentor, or even a friend to listen.
This makes me think of a time I was overwhelmed with this project. I felt totally lost, like drowning in information. Then a friend reminded me about this online group I hadn't checked in with for a while.
Oh, yeah. What happened when you reached out?
It was like a light bulb. I posted a question, and within minutes, I had tons of responses. People shared their experiences, gave me resources. Sometimes it's not about working harder, but knowing where to look for help.
Such a good point. Resources can pop up in the most unexpected places.
Okay, so we've got purpose, people and roles, resources. What's next in the PAIR-AC framework?
The A. It stands for actions and behaviors. Here we shift gears. Instead of just understanding where we're at, we explore the actions and changes we might want to make.
So, analysis to action planning. We laid the groundwork, now we figure out the how.
You got it. Beyond Words talks about asking what are the usual actions or practices you see in these situations? Or think about a successful outcome. How could people change their actions to get there?
So instead of assuming things will magically fix themselves, we encourage actually picturing those changes and spotting those potential hurdles along the way.
Yeah, and we start to see those blind spots, right? Like, wait, I didn't even think about that.
Exactly.
Beyond Words also talks about how important it is to get why people act certain ways. Asking, what do you think is behind, like, these behaviors we're seeing can be really eye-opening.
Because sometimes people don't resist change just to be difficult, right?
Yeah,
Maybe there's a real concern they have that hasn't been dealt with.
exactly. Once you get the why behind what they're doing, then you can try to find other ways to act that address, like, those needs.
Makes me think of that saying, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. It's about working with them, not forcing it.
100%. Okay, so we've got purpose, people and roles, resources, actions, and behaviors. That brings us to our final zone in the PSE model, context.
It might seem kind of basic, but it's easy to forget.
Context, like you mean the time and place of a conversation.
That's part of it, but it's
Yeah.
also like the bigger picture, you know, the history, the relationships, all those unspoken rules that change how what we say lands on people.
So, like, you could ask the same question, but it'll have a totally different meaning depending on the context. Exactly. Think about it. You might say something one way joking with your friends, but with your boss in a meeting, it's totally different.
Oh, yeah. Learned that one the hard way a couple times.
Haven't we all? And it's more than just like not making a fool of yourself. When you get the context, you can tailor your message. Beyond Words actually suggests some deceptively simple but really powerful questions like, where and when does this usually happen? Or what are the conditions when this behavior usually comes up?
Those seem so obvious, but I can see how they'd uncover some really key information.
Totally. And they can challenge what we think we know too. Say you're trying to figure out a conflict between two people. Asking about the context where that conflict usually happens, it can point to triggers, or patterns.
It's like that saying, don't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. You've got to get the context to really understand.
Exactly. Okay, so we went through all 5 zones of Pierre, which is awesome. But Beyond Words also have all these like little golden nuggets of advice, tucked away extra tips and techniques. Anything in particular stand out to you?
Honestly, there was so much good stuff. I love turning questions into those value statements. It's a subtle way to shift the whole feeling of a conversation.
Such a good reframing trick. Instead of would you want to learn more, you say, I'm sure you'll find this information really useful.
Same idea, but way more confident and engaging.
Exactly. And that confidence, it rubs off, it makes the other person more open. Plus, the book has a whole section on how to use this in different situations.
I'm thinking about trying that on my next sales call. Instead of asking, want to schedule a demo, I can say, I know a demo would be super helpful for you.
There you go. Already putting it into action.
Can't help it. I'm feeling inspired.
Yeah.
This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. It's like I've got this whole new way to approach communication now, more, I don't know, with more purpose.
And that's what Beyond Words is all about. It's about going beyond those surface level chats and using questions as a tool to really understand each other, make those relationships stronger, and get better results in all parts of our lives.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into powerful questions, any final thoughts?
I'd say go into every conversation seeing it as an opportunity to learn something, connect with someone, even make a difference. And remember, those questions you ask, they'll often decide how strong your relationships are, how good your experiences are.
That's so true. It's like they say, the only stupid question is the one you don't ask.
Exactly. So keep asking those great questions, keep exploring, and you might be surprised at what you find.
This has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with me.
My pleasure. Always love talking about this stuff.
And to everyone listening, we hope this was insightful, maybe even inspiring. Until next time, keep those questions coming.
Thank you for listening. Give us a like and share your comments. Order the book via the link in the comments. Stay tuned for more.
Beyond words, our soul